Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. A little story to back this up. My father called me up and said, for Christmas this year, I'd really like a prime rib. It's been so long since we've had one. And I said, they're pretty expensive. My dad was like, nonsense. I know the butchers up north. I know this person, that person. I'm sure I can get a good deal somewhere. Mm, like, even a regular steak or something these days is stupidly priced. My dad's like, yeah, I'll call you back later. My dad called back later and he said, yeah, we're not having prime rib. I said, what about, usually you can get a sirloin or something like that. He's just like, no. Then we got to talking. Beef has been expensive for quite some time. Now, as I always like to point out, I don't see the cattle farmers getting rich. Although cattle farmers do generally tend to be more well off than their plant cousins. I don't know what to call a farmer that only does plants. But at the same token, like unless you're running 1,000 acres of cattle with all that sort of stuff, you're a small time operation or you're one of those specialty operations. But you don't need to worry about that. You go into your local uh, local food shop, whether it's a mega market or whether it's just a happy friendly family. And beef is an obnoxious price. Like that prime rib. I took a look online myself just to see what my dad was looking into. And for a 1.2 kilogram bit of prime rib, it was almost $100. Now, I understand things are getting expensive. They have been doing that forever. But at what point is the market going to turn around? Remember, there's supposed to be this thing called supply and demand. And the demand will always be high for beef because it's got a lot of umami flavor, it's chewy, it's stuff like that. And, it really makes you feel like you've had a solid meal in your stomach. Okay, got it. But at some point, you price yourself out of the market. Look at scallops. There was a time scallops were dirt cheap. And chefs like Chef Gordon Ramsay realized that and they started buying it to be used in their restaurants. That drove the price up because demand suddenly existed where there wasn't one before. My dad tells me the story, and I believe him that when they came to the country, lamb was dirt cheap. They get like a whole shoulder of lamb or something. They'd be able to make a big giant meal off of that. And then suddenly people realized, hey, lamb can be very tasty. So the price of it went from, something for poor people to something for rich people. To get a shoulder of lamb these days is about $30, $40 to my knowledge. I haven't checked. I really need to check this stuff. My point being this. Right now, we're in a weird situation. This stuff is going to become a luxury item, and then when the regular people are not buying it, what happens to those herds? I tell you what, they cull the herds. Oh, we can't sell this, so we can't support all these animals next year, so they cull it, which means they just kill it. Sell it off as dog food or whatever the hell it is. Yeah, your dogs are eating prime rib that they couldn't sell. Probably not, but it's possible. Same with the lamb. If it doesn't sell, they call their herds because they want to keep the demand up. Remember, it's not only the farmer that you're talking about. You have a market in people who are bidding on those cattle. And this is where the futures market comes in. A farmer is going to have 1,000 cows. And cows are generally a safer bet than corn because while you might plant 1,000 hectares of corn and you know how many ears of corn you should get per acre, might be a bad year, whatever. Whereas cows, they're pretty resilient. The medical technology is there to save them. So cows are a better bet than corn, making them a better investment. So the futures buyer says, okay, how many cows do you anticipate having this year? 700 for whatever reason. He says, okay, for those 700, I'll give you $300 each. And the farmer can take it, leave it. Let's just say he takes it because I want to keep my numbers simple. So then the farmer walks off very happy because he's just made $300,000. And his cows that he keeps are going to drop a lot more calves and his supply will remain. Then that broker, he doesn't want to be stuck with these cows. So he's going to take delivery the second that the farmer says, yep, they're good to go. And he wants to drop them off to a processing plant as fast as possible. That way it's in, he drops it off, he gets paid, and he gets out of there. At this point, he's probably raking in $50,000, $60,000, depending on what his profit margin is. And this is where the problem is. Cows trade hands so many times before they wind up in your supermarket. And at every stage that they change hands, they become worth more and more money. Each time they get shipped around, you also have to pay a driver, a trailer, whatever it is, to move however many cows. That was one thing I never did, was move livestock. Never my trade. But like I said, there's all these people that are taking money, so by the time it gets to you, that prime rib has probably changed hands a whole bunch of times. And that prime rib has also been up for auction to Gordon Ramsay, to the local supermarket, to everybody that you can think of. And this is why your stuff keeps getting expensive. There's that market in Japan where the first tuna of the year, they have a competition to see who can pay the most for it because that supposedly promises success. Well, I realize that's not really the purpose of an auction. I appreciate the tradition. But that also means it's adding price, it's adding expenses on every other piece of tuna, every other piece of cow, everything else. Now again, we got supply and demand. If the grocery chains decide they're not going to offer beef because it's too expensive to stock and to keep, because again, you never know. You put it out there for $20 for a steak, which is not as unlikely as you might seem. But they put it out there for $20 a steak. People don't buy it, so at the last day they mark it down to $10. Then somebody says, "Ooh, I'm getting a great deal." That's a risk the supermarket has to take. And eventually they got to think, we're not doing this anymore. It's not worth our time, our effort, and our money to stock this stuff. So for cow, lamb, pigs, I don't think chickens will go through this because chicken has too many ways that it can be used. But at some point there's going to be a giant cull of all these animals. And that's going to be a scary thing because the prices are not going to go down, but you won't be able to find any of it. Actually, it kind of feels that way right now. This is going to mark a turning point because either the government's going to have to step in and get involved, or laissez-faire will take over and farmers are just going to move away from livestock. because that's how you survive these things is you move on to something more profitable. I'm not insulting farmers. I'm not thrilled with the system the way that it is in place, but right now it's the only fair way to do it because everybody's amalgamating, everybody's trying to become the biggest boy on the block. And yeah, what they're going to do with all these animals someday is anybody's guess. And it won't be pretty. The vegans already get mad at how many animals get killed. And while I usually don't take vegans very seriously, I have to say in this respect, they're right. There'll be a whole generation of animals slaughtered simply because the prices are too high. I don't really have a problem with animals being slaughtered to be eaten, but I do have a problem with them being slaughtered for no reason. So, with that, we hope we gave you something to think about on today's show. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Don't forget to click the bell icon down in the lower right corner. And we hope you have a fantastic day.